Hello there, welcome to Shots Fired Airsoft. I'm Ben, and today I've got a review of the Army Armament R36 for you. This is not an unboxing, this gun has already been out, fired for a review, however I will show you how it comes. Nice foam packaging, and when you open it up you have the gun, 2 mags, speed loader and cleaner and jamming rod and a manual. So to start off with the speed loader, it's quite a nice unit, hasn't broken on me yet like a lot of them do, and it's got a specific tip for the magazines. Obviously this makes loading the mags a lot easier. There is no front access on the mags like you get in a sort of a gas blowback pistol, so you'll always be going through the lips. The magazines themselves are extremely heavy. They clip together quite well and have a base plate that covers the gas valve. These seem pretty well built, however we'll have a closer look at them later. You get your standard cleaning and unjamming rod, pretty much par for the course with any sort of airsoft gun. And then because it comes from Tire and Gun, you get your little anime safety sheet which you ignore, and then you get a very Chinese manual. However, it does show you a lot of things in the gun. No exploded diagram, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. However, that tends to be the most useful thing you get in a manual. The gun itself is rather heavy, feels very well built in the hand. It's ambidextrous selectors, ghost ring sight, metal rail system at the front, and nice charging action, although the plastic handle is a bit weak feeling, and a responsive trigger. The stock itself is obviously foldable, being a G36, and it is extremely well attached to the gun when folded. I'm going to take a little closer look at the gun now that everything else is out of the way. Again, selectors don't feel the best on this. They're quite gammy, not very precise. Lovely metal top rail for all your optics. The rear sight can transition between iron sights and the ghost ring setup. So you have triple pin takedown, which is essentially like the real weapon. Interesting side note, you can't put this gun on safe unless it is cocked, which is an interesting choice. And just a little look down, what you'll be looking down when you have this weapon shouldered. It is very comfortable, I must say. Lovely gun to hold. A bit of a closer look at the magazines. You have obviously the pins on the side for locking them together. It's quite a secure lock, I must say. Flat square gas router, standard feed lip assembly. Again, try and get the camera to focus. It's jumping around all over the place, which I do apologise for. The mag base itself, these are a bit delicate. They're held in with one screw and small plastic lips. They can break and have broken in the past. But apart from that, I haven't experienced any issues. Adding the magazines to a scale, we see that they are pretty much as heavy as a gas blowback pistol. This means that when they're together, you are looking at nearly 1.5 kilos hanging out the bottom of the gun. Considering that the gun, as you'll see here, weighs a good 2.5 kilos, comfortable 2.5 kilos. If you actually have both mags in, this thing weighs pretty much 4 kilograms, which is a huge weight for an assault rifle. So there we have the gun folded with the magazine in, and you can see it's 3.2 kilograms, which incidentally is pretty much the weight of the actual G36. Okay, so the R36 features a rather nice full metal flash hider, which, as you'll see here, quite a long thread. Underneath this flash hider is a full 14mm counterclockwise thread, which means that any of your tracers, suppressors, anything else you care to stick on the front of this thing will actually fit. So here we have me putting on my X-Cortec Mini Mark II, which fits on lovely, clears the handguard, and is all well and good. So you don't have to worry, anything you get with a 14mm negative thread is going to go on there, and it does look really rather nice. So here we go with the takedown. These are toolless pins, and I think once they've been in and out a few times it would be a lot easier to remove and replace them. I'm just using needle nose pliers here because it makes life a bit easier. The the pins do pop out pretty easy. You can push them out from the other side. However, as soon as I'm doing this on video, I thought it might be an idea just to make life a bit easier for myself. So once all the pins are out, the gun is pretty much modular. So the magwell and trigger just pull straight out. There's no other pins, no other problems with removal. Once they're out, handguard just pulls off the front. The handguard's pretty heavy, obviously with the 3 metal rails on. I was quite surprised by that. Here we have one of the issues with the R36, which is outer barrel wobble. However, it's usually because this big nut here is loose. Now, they don't provide a tool in the package to actually tighten this properly, so you have to do it with your fingers. However, as you saw then, once it was tight, the barrel wobble was dramatically reduced. Once you've got this far, you fold the stock over, and then the back of the guide rod will actually slide out with a little bit of force, followed swiftly by the bolt. The rest of it is pretty simple. You go back to the previously loose nut, back it right off, pull that, that's your outer barrel assembly and your gas piston, and then the hop up and inner barrel just falls right out the back, and that's it. The gun is completely and utterly field stripped. So here we are with the reassembly, and I'd just like to point out something on the hop unit. Be careful you get it in the correct way up, because it will go in both ways, and obviously if you get it in the wrong way up, the feed ramp for the nozzle will hit the unslotted side of the hop-up chamber. So that's what I've just done there. Put it in the correct way up, pick up the outer barrel and gas piston assembly, and this is the next thing to go back in, and this essentially clamps the front of the gun together. So just slide it straight in over the top of the inner barrel. If you're like me, you'll realise you put the gas piston in upside down, so we'll do that again. And there's a little slot that the piston sits in. The little plate holds it on the front, and if you've got it all correct, then the nut will be very easy to do up. Sometimes if you get it slightly misaligned or anything, the nut will try and cross thread and not spin. After that, pop the bolt in, and that's just slide all the way forward. So there you go, you can see it's sat right up against the hop unit. There's no gap. Like I said, you can actually put the entire gun together with the hop unit in the wrong way up. It will actually all fit together. Next to go in is the recoil spring guide rod. And as you'll see, I'll flip it over and I'll show you, there's a little hole on the top of the gun, and there's a little spigot on top of the guide rod that will sit in there. And really, once that's in, it will kind of hold itself, but I just flip the stock out just to make sure nothing gets in the way or falls out the back of the gun. Next to go back on is the handguard. Very simple installation. Just make sure it's the right way up, slide it on, and there are 2 pins that it connects with at the back of the handguard, and you'll see them slot on there. I'll just show you the pins themselves. And that just stays on like that. Next is the trigger assembly. Essentially you want to put this in and make sure that you've got the holes relatively aligned, and then the magwell is a bit difficult to get back on. It's very tight fit, which means I guess it isn't going to be loose. The last thing you want is a loose mag. As you can see, I struggle a bit to get it on, but eventually it will just pop. There we go, very assuredly. And then you slide the 2 in together at the same time, and that's it. The gun is back together. All that remains is to pop a few pins back in. So it's that time you've all been waiting for, the firing test. Best part of any gas blowback rifle. The sound these things make, the enjoyment they bring, makes all the maintenance, the lubrication, the issues with gas, it makes it all worthwhile. Now today, as you can tell by state of my breath, it is barely over 0, which is essentially a hellscape for these things. They do not enjoy cold weather, gas contraction, causes firing issues, cycling problems, low FPS. But all that aside, we're going to see what we can get out of this today. The WEG39 is known for being a torturable GBBR, and this is a clone of that, so we'll see how much of the genetics passed over into the Army Armament R36. I don't have a huge amount of space, however I have managed to get a 15-metre range, which should be enough to give us an idea about whether it can hit the side of a barn door. And particularly for me, who are primarily plays CQB, it will also give us a very good idea as to how effective this weapon would be over a short range distance indoors, which is where I use it, or where I will be using it when all this lockdown business is over. So sit tight, I'm going to zoom in on the target, I'm going to go back 15 metres, centre on the large target at the bottom, the centre of the torso, and see what we can hit. So the firing test didn't go too bad. A little bit all over the shop, but like I say, the main thing with these cheaper guns is that things like the quality of the hop rubber tends to suffer, which probably explains what we're seeing there. Later on down the line, I do have a maple leaf hop rubber to go in this VSR 10 based. I also have a strong recoil spring because, as you saw in the breakdown, the recoil spring that they come with and the WG39 one is not especially fantastic. So what we're going to do now is chrono test it. I've got a little Kachir chronograph here, which is actually off Amazon for about £27, but it does work very well, and when it's tested against things like the Export Tech chronographs, it is always within 1 or 2 FPS. So I've got 0.25s in the gun because that's all I have at the moment. However, I've set this to 0.25 so I can give you the drill readings, which should give you an idea of how powerful the gun is actually firing, because the FPS won't match up to like a normal FPS of a 0.2. So we've got 315.9, 315.4, 320.6, 314.4, 309.7, 315 on the dot, and 312 FPS. So that's quite impressive, considering the fact that it is about 3 degrees out here at the moment. I mean, you can see my breath, maybe. So that is not at all unimpressive. So you're probably looking at 1.131 joules, about 350 FPS on 0.2s, which means that this gun actually is ideal for CQB limit in the UK, so 350 FPS. I have seen them as high as 400, 420, but I don't know if that was an older version of the gun. So this one, happily, doesn't need to be restricted, which is nice. We're just going to see if we can get away with auto dumping the rest of this magazine, which in this cold, it may or may not happen. And there we go. I did burst fire it, but we did get through the rest of the mag, and it did get rid of all the rounds. This gun does have a slightly weird thing where it ignores the last round in the mag, but it is only the last round. So if you put that back in, hit the reset, then it will fire it. Oh, and by the way, doesn't it sound marvellous? Nothing beats a gas blowback rifle.
There's a lot to be said for the R36. I mean, what do you compare it to? A TM NWS? Really an all-in package and actually being able to run the gun cost of £700? Do you compare it to its, well, the thing it was cloned from, the WEG39, with a retail price of around £250 to £300, and then even then it comes with one magazine, so it doesn't have the two that the R36 comes with. Replacement magazines for the R36 can be as little as £25 to £30. Most GBBRs are 50 plus. When you look at all these things together, the R36 at around £120 in the UK has got to be the cheapest effective GBBR that is available for purchase, and it is pretty difficult to see any of its downsides when you consider the price that it's available for. There are certainly some problems, like for example the hopper rubber not being the best. However, that is easily swapped for under £10. So you really are kind of pushed to actually find fault with a rifle that allows anyone to enter the rather expensive realm of gas blowback rifles. There may be further problems down the line, and as I get to use the R36 I will let you know if anything does come up. And I do plan on doing another video where I fit the parts that I have for the nozzle spring. I do apologise for calling it the recoil spring earlier, it's not the recoil spring, the nozzle spring and the hop-up rubber primarily, and it would be good to do another firing test and see what improvements that made. So if you have made it this far in the video, I thank you for watching. It will be the first of many. I aim to keep this channel quite frank, keep the video updates regular, and if there's anything you'd like to see and anything that you would like a video made of, let me know in the comments and I will endeavour to get it done so that you can see what you want to see. So again, welcome to Shots Fired Airsoft. I'm Ben, and that's all for now. Thank you.